Cooper, Cooper, come here, buddy. Hey, Coop, no, leave it. Lie down. Sit. You behave. Okay. Good boy, Cooper. So this is not my dog. It's actually my neighbor's dog. I still don't have a farm dog. Well, thank you, Cody.
Yeah,
really appreciate it.
No, anytime. Perfect. You don't want these?
No. I'm sure he'll appreciate them way more than I will.
See you guys. See you, Cooper. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, we still don't have a farm dog here, only barn cats. But after that video I put out the other day with the bobcat, I figured I owed you guys an explanation as to why we don't have a farm dog here on our farm. I mean, it's a reasonable thing to wonder why a farm doesn't have a farm dog. You know, something to offer up a bark bark here and a bark bark there, here a bark, there a bark, everywhere a bark bark. So I was 13 years old and I was standing outside of a pet shop in our local mall. I was trying to explain to my mother why it was so critically important that we buy the tiny little beagle puppy that was sitting across from us on the other side of the glass. He was an adorable little puppy, you know, big beagle eyes, floopy beagle ears. I had seen him already about a week earlier at the mall, and I'd actually brought my mom back to that mall to convince her that, yeah, I needed to get this puppy. Part of making my case, I even drew a little comic book about why it was so important for me to get this dog. And apparently my sales pitch worked because my mom caved and she let us get this dog. And yeah, you don't have to lecture me about how horrible of an idea it is to actually get a pet store dog. I think it's an awful practice and completely against it at this day and age. But back then, you know, it was just something that people did. Now, growing up, I had had several other dogs already in the house. They were good dogs, they were well-trained dogs, they were well-behaved dogs, but they weren't my dog. And my 13-year-old brain had cooked up this plan that I wanted to train this dog to be my best friend and loyal companion. As I was in middle school, I was always sort of a lonely kid. And so, you know, the idea of having this dog companion that would love me unconditionally and be my companion, it was really appealing to me. And so we got the dog, and I ended up naming him after my favorite basketball player, Charles Barkley.
I am not a role model.
But the problem was I did not know what I was doing. My fantasy of the type of dog that he should be got mixed up with the reality of how hard it is to actually train a dog. About a year after getting Barkley, he had developed some awful habits. And so despite the fact that I would try to train him and try to work with him and teach him to come to his own name, teach him not to go to the bathroom inside the house, things were kind of a mess.
Oh my God. What did you do?
He was peeing and pooping everywhere. He would growl and snarl anytime you would try to take his food away from him. I waited way too long to get him neutered, and he started humping anything and everything that was in his sight. He would bark and howl constantly, and if we let him run outside in our backyard, he would take off and potentially be gone for days. This dog was really a mess. And I realized that, you know, for the most part, it was all my fault. And by the time I was 14 and 15 and 16, I was way too into music and hanging out with my friends and really not paying attention to dogs. And in fact, I'd spend a lot of time over at my dad's house, which left the care and raising of Barkley to my mom, who had like zero interest in raising this dog. So there it was, I begged and pleaded for this dog, and I was completely doing a horrible job as a dog owner, not taking care of it, not living up to my responsibilities.
Oh, ducks, go to bed! 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 Oh, ducks, go to bed!
They're finally getting it! They're finally getting it! You know, properly training animals and taking care of animals is a lot of work. It's a lot of responsibility that you take on when you take on that animal. And the reality is, at 13, 14, 15 years old, I was horribly equipped to try to take care of an animal like Barkley. Let's go, geese. Bedtime. Bedtime for the geese. Come on. Into the house. Don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I guess technically you have to go home. And eventually, I remember the day I think I was just about 16 because I was driving at that point and I had a car and I was home even less than I ever was. And I remember coming home one day, I think after spending a night at a friend's house, and Barkley was gone. My mom told me that she had found a new home for Barkley and he was off living with an older man out in the country somewhere. And he was gonna be okay, but he couldn't live at her house anymore. Or at least that's what I hope happened. On one hand, I was kind of mad with my mom, but on the other hand, I completely knew she was right to do what she did. And I really blamed myself. Because at the end of the day, it was all my fault. The fact that Barkley was not properly trained, the fact that I wasn't spending enough time with him, the fact that I wasn't paying attention to the things that needed to happen to make sure he was a good dog, all of it was my fault. And so after that incident, I made a vow to myself that I would never ever get another dog unless I was in the situation where I could actually properly take care of the dog and I could properly train the dog. And you know, 23, 24 years later, I've never owned another dog since. And the reasons I never owned another dog were usually work related. Like I had the type of career where I had to work so much and I couldn't be home for the dog and I couldn't be home enough to take care of the dog. And so because of that life situation, I couldn't bring myself to do it. And even now here on the farm where I've adopted a ton of responsibility with the ducks and geese and chickens and barn cats. All right, let's not kid ourselves. The barn cats are like zero work. But even still, I've got a lot of responsibility here at the farm. And so, you know, technically speaking, I could understand how somebody on the surface could be looking at me saying, yeah, man, just go get a dog, protect your ducks, protect your animals, get a dog, man, get a dog. And you guys out there who are saying that are right. I know that I need to get a dog. I know that to be a responsible farmer and to protect my farm, I need a dog. To protect the animals that I'm responsible for here on my farm, I need to get a dog. And so that's why I'm very pleased to tell you guys that we are in fact getting a livestock guardian dog here on Goldshaw Farm. It's actually something I've been working on for a little while. Ever since we had the mink attack back in April, I've been very much researching and doing my homework and trying to figure out if I were to get a livestock guardian dog, what would I do? And so this has been something I've been working on for dang near 6 months now. Next month, we're gonna have a puppy show up here on the farm. It's gonna be a Maremma.
The Maremma Abruzzi sheepdog.
For those of you not familiar, Maremmas are these Italian sheepdogs. They usually live up in the Alps. They're often out there living in the wilderness full-time with the sheep, taking care of them, becoming essentially a part of the flock. Maremma just seemed like the best breed for me. I'm sure you guys were gonna hash out in the comments the best type of livestock guardian dog, but after doing a lot of research and talking to a lot of friends, it seemed like the right option. And I also found that a friend of mine, he's got a sheep farm not too far from here. He actually had a Maremma male that he was putting out to stud. And so I ended up with one of their puppies. And as an added bonus, the farm that the dog is currently being raised on, she has a whole bunch of chickens and turkeys and ducks. And so this puppy is getting raised right now in just the absolute perfect setting. I'm only getting one dog right now because I want to focus on training it. I want to focus on getting it set up with my livestock the right way. I want to make sure it's got proper dog manners.
It's a pleasure to see you again. Lovely weather we're having.
I want to make sure I'm doing it right here. And I worry that if I got an adult dog, it'd be much harder to train it to poultry and train it to ducks specifically. And if I got two puppies, it would be a lot harder to train two puppies at once versus just focusing on the one. Eventually, in a year or two, I will bring on another puppy once this puppy has matured and he can help me in the training and showing this new dog the ropes. The plan is I'm gonna house the dog actually in a kennel right inside the barn right behind me there. And I'm also gonna house the geese and the chickens right next to them. So the two flocks and the dog are gonna all live together in very close proximity. I'm not gonna have the puppy have unsupervised access to them for at least the first couple of months. But once things get into a good rhythm, I fully expect to have the dog living with the flock. I also have a big grand scheme where I think I might wanna try to actually fence in most of this pasture here that you see down below. So pretty much everything from the tree lines out to where I have the swales and berms, all the way back to right where we're standing here. More to come on that. That's a much longer ranger plan. But the immediate news is, yeah, I'm getting a livestock guardian dog. Wait, you gotta see this. Look at Pablo. What you doing, buddy? Huh? I have no idea how the barn cats are gonna react to this dog. I gotta make sure I train the dog to be cool with the barn cats though. That's an absolute must. I was actually planning on keeping this a secret a little while longer, but I saw that so many of you were kind of upset by the fact that we had the bobcats so close and other wild animals so close, and you were worried about the ducks, and I really do appreciate that concern. So I didn't want to hold this from you any longer. So that's why we don't have a farm dog on the farm, but that will change, and that will change very soon. All right, come on, chickens. We're gonna lock you guys up. How'd you guys do on guard duty today, huh? Come on, chicken. Come on, chicken. Let's go, chicken. Come on. Let's go, chicken. Come on, chook. Come on. Let's go. Come on, in you go. Whoop. Come on, everybody in. And the barn cats are next, Come on, barn cats. Let's go. Come on, time to teach you. Come here, guys.